My name is Michelle Carrara. I am an Education Abroad Advisor at the Office of International Education at URI, and we're really excited to be hosting International Education Week this week. IEW is actually a nationwide celebrated week. It's an initiative of the U.S. Department of State and the U.S. Department of Education. And at URI, we feel like this offers students a whole variety of opportunities to explore the benefits of international education and exchanges, and what that brings to our campus, as well as preparing students for the global workforce and the global environment. And then, of course, also attracting leaders from abroad to study, learn, and exchange experiences within our international student population. So you'll see a whole range of different events this week. Some are focused on study abroad, some are focused on international education funding, research opportunities, and things like that. And then there's some cultural programming options as well. So certainly feel free to check those out. And I'm going to hand it over to Eileen, who is joining us from API.
Okay, it's not letting me share. Let me see here. Hang on. Okay, I got it there. Perfect. Okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Michelle. Thanks for hosting us during International Education Week. We're very excited to be here. My name is Eileen Tillman, and I'm a Senior Director of University Relations and Outreach at API. I'm also a former API student. I studied abroad in Spain. And we have also Caitlin, if you want to say hello and just say your name and major and where you studied, that would be great.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi keeps cutting out, but I'm Caitlin. I studied abroad in Florence, Italy. My major is speech pathology, and I studied abroad with API during the summer of 2019, and it was amazing.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm gonna go through some slides. I'm gonna show you a video as well. And then once we wrap up, I'm gonna have Caitlin just talk briefly about her experience as an API student. That was more recent than my experience. And so we'll go into details and cover lots of information about API. But here you can see API, what our mission is. So of course, our mission of API is to design and deliver international experiences that inspire learning and enrich students, partners, and communities. And then our vision is to lead advances in global learning. So we've started sending students abroad in 1998, and we were founded by four women, four moms that you can see here, and they created study abroad programs. And now we send, on average, about 4,000 students abroad every year, and we have all different lengths of programs. So you could do a semester abroad, you could do a full year, a summer, a shorter J term. If you don't want to go that long, there's all different lengths and all different types of programs. So like I said, I'll start with a video and then we'll get into more details about the programs.
Don't be fearful. Know that we're there for you. You're going to have the best time of your life. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes to everything in your experience. This is going to change your life if you allow it.
The best semester of my life. As cliche as it sounds, it really did change my life. I learned so much, not only about Cuba, the Spanish language, but I learned the most about myself.
Now I'm so much more confident than who I was before I left. Now I take decisions on the fly and don't think too much. I don't have to ask 20 people, is this okay? I don't have to wait till people tell me, oh, is that a good thing that you can do? No, like now I know who I am and I'm so firm that this is who I am that I don't have to question much about what I do. And now I'm fearless. As I mentioned earlier in the dream, now I'm limitless as well. So now I can take on the world. I can take on the world. There's nothing that now I feel like is impossible for me until I try. And it truly is, it really like transforming.
Okay, well, thank you for your attention during that video. I know it was a long video, but it made me realize that one of the alum from Bhutan was actually a URI student, Ben Concepcion. He was one of our star alum, and he was featured in that video. So I hope you enjoyed it. I love that video because I think it's a great representation of what it's like to be an API student and everything that you get included in the program and the structure. So here you can see the locations where we offer study abroad programs. We also have internships. We have J-term programs or Maymester, and we also have a suite of virtual programs as well that we introduced recently. If you're looking for something that you want to do now, since we're not able to travel, you could look at a virtual program. I'll talk a little bit about those later on in the presentation. But here you can see, and then this will just show you, this is from our website and at a glance where our different locations are. So we are all over the world. We have 21 countries to choose from. So you have lots of opportunity when it comes to program locations. This will just go over basically what to expect from API when you're on an API program. So we have a lot of pre-departure services. Before you even get on site, you'll work with a staff member in the API Texas office. You'll have a program manager assigned to your location, and they'll help you through the pre-departure process, all the kind of clerical forms that you have to complete. If you need a student visa for the program, they're going to help you through that process. And then once you get on site, you'll be met at the airport by one of our API resident directors. You saw in the video the airport pickup. So as long as you arrive on the established program start date by the cutoff time that we specify, somebody from API will be there with a big API sign, and they'll start the API orientation on the day that you arrive. We also have a lot of orientation meetings. If you do a virtual program, you'll have them as well in the virtual space, but you'll have a lot of health and safety orientations, housing, cultural norms. There's a lot of orientations during the first few days of the program before you start classes at your host university. Your tuition, your insurance, excursions, which are trips that we organize for you, social and cultural activities, that's all included in the cost of the program, as well as your housing. So really the big thing that's not included in the cost of the program is airfare. That's never included in the API program. And then depending on where you go, meals may or may not be included. So if you're like Caitlin and you went to Italy and you Florence and you lived in an apartment, you wouldn't have meals included. But if you go to Spain, for example, and live with a host family, you would get some meals included. So that really does vary. Our website has a housing section for every location, so you can check what, depending on what location you're looking at, whether or not meals are included or not in the cost of the program. And then also when you're on the excursions, meals are not included. So that's another thing that you have to budget for. But we're going to talk a little bit more about excursions in a minute. First, I'll start with cultural events because I love these events because I think they really, what the main goal of these events is to introduce you to more to the culture of the location where you're studying. So you saw in the video and you can see here, you do pasta making if you go to Italy. There's lots of different activities that our on-site staff are going to coordinate for you. There's no additional cost for you to attend any of these activities, and they vary based on your location and the semester that you go. So it could be anything from outings to the movies, concerts, museums, cultural tours, cooking classes. There's just a lot of variety when it comes to the cultural events. But really, again, they're all organized for you. And the main idea is just to introduce you more to the language and culture of that location. You always have a welcome and a farewell meal as a group. So you'll be introduced to your API group the moment that you arrive, and you'll have a welcome meal that first night. And then to tie up the end of the program, you'll also have a farewell meal. And your resident directors will all be included in that as well. And then anything that you need while you're abroad, you can always contact your resident director. But in terms of cultural events and excursions, they're always present for those activities. So for excursions, these are longer trips that we organize for you. So they can be day trips, they can be overnight. Sometimes we have international excursions, but because of COVID, we have had to make some adjustments to our excursion locations, and we've discontinued for the moment the international excursions for spring 21. Things could change by fall 21, so things may change by then. But for this spring, we did have to make some modifications to our locations. But know that excursions are included in every API program, and they have the same idea as the cultural events. It's really just to get you more familiar with different parts of the country, maybe locations that you wouldn't go to on your own. And so you're able to travel together as a group along with the API resident directors. As a student, I can say the excursions were one of the highlights of my API program. I would guess that Caitlin agrees with that as well. If you want to chime in and say anything about them, you are more than welcome to jump in, Caitlin.
Oh yeah, I was going to talk about them later, but the excursions were amazing. They took us to Rome, Venice, the Venetian islands, Cinque Terre, and I didn't know about a lot of the things included, so it was a lot of pleasant surprises. Like we went to a winery, there were a lot of walking tours, and it was nice because some of the other excursions I went on my own time, I felt really lost in the big city, but with the API staff, they took us around everywhere. I felt like everything was accommodated for. Transportation, hotels, all that was included, which was super, super helpful. And they even gave us like recommendations for dinner and stuff like that because they were familiar with the area. So I loved it. It worked out really well.
Awesome. It's funny that you didn't know that they were included and then you got there and they were. That's a great surprise. But like Caitlin said, so the transportation, accommodations, entrance fees are all included. It's just meals, again, that are not included on the excursions. So if you stay overnight in a hotel, you'll get breakfast included in the morning at the hotel, but the other, lunch and dinner, you would have to budget for that. But we'll let you know all of the excursion locations, where they're planned, when they're planned for in advance, so you can also go ahead and plan your own independent travel in addition to the API excursions. So housing we know is so important to students on your program. It's a huge part, of course, where you live. We want you to be comfortable. We want you to be safe. We have different options, again, depending on where you go. So I'm going to be very brief in general about housing. But you can choose from dorms, apartments, or host families. And really, it depends. It varies by location, but you can see some sample photos here. Essentially, the dorms are similar to what you have at URI, probably more on the smaller side. But there'll be shared spaces where you live with other students, and sometimes you get meals included and there's a common dining hall where you eat together. Sometimes you prepare your own meals. In the apartments, it's always only API students that share those apartments, so anywhere from 4 to 8 students living together in the apartments. Meals are not included when you live in apartment style housing. You will have a fully equipped kitchen, but you have to buy and prepare the food and the meals. So you'll have everything you need to do that, but you have to keep in mind, and you have to budget extra for the meals in the apartments. And then similar to the dorms, you have shared spaces, common spaces. It's typically 2 students per bedroom, and then you share a bathroom. And then with host families, you will be living with a local French or Spanish or whatever country you go to, a local family from that location. And you typically get 2 to 3 meals a day included, where you are part of the family and you're eating meals with the family. It's a really great location, or a really great option if you want to practice your language skills. I did a year in Spain in my first semester with a host family, and then I moved to an apartment. And I really liked having a host family at the beginning when I was getting used to my new city, because they're an extra support and they can give you advice just like the API resident directors can do, but you kind of have your own support system there in your home. So that's it. And it's also a really great introduction, of course, to local culture. So we give you an option and we ask you to fill out a housing form where you put everything that you envision in your housing, and then we set you up with the best match based on what you provide on that form. API Gives Back, I just want to take a moment to talk about the API Gives Back project. This is something that we do in most of our API locations, where we will organize a community service project to give thanks and to give back to the community that's hosting you. So you can see a few example photos here. We've done beach cleanup, where we work in the local community to help preserve the beaches. We've done projects in Costa Rica where we've helped paint the orphanage for students. You can assist in an elderly home. There's a lot of variety, and they really do vary based on the location. But the idea is to give back to the local community, and you work together and you do together as an API cohort. It can either be a one-day community service project, or it could be an ongoing project. Again, it really kind of depends on location, but if volunteering and getting involved in community is something that you're looking for and that you're seeking in your study abroad experience, definitely talk to the resident directors on site, because they have tons of connections and that's what their role is, and they can help you get involved in whatever it is that you want to do while you're abroad. We also have internships, so I'll take a moment to talk about internships if you're thinking that you want to do something with more practical experience versus going on site and studying. We have full-time and we have part-time internships. So the full-time is 32 hours a week, where you're interning with a local organization in one of the countries that you see here. And we also have part-time placements for 20 hours a week. All of the placements are completely tailored, and so it depends on what your major, your background, and what your goals are for the internship. But we would work with you to find all of that out, and then we place you with whatever organization meets those needs. But it is a very tailored process, and you do work very closely with Laura, who is our internship coordinator in the Texas office, to help make sure that we can find the best placement for you. You also, just like study abroad, you would have an orientation. We do a workplace and culture orientation for the intern, so it's just a little different because it's more career focused. But your housing, your insurance, your on-site staff, everything will be the same as study abroad, but you're going to be interning versus taking classes. You also will be enrolled in API Connect, which is our virtual learning workspace when you're abroad on any API program. And then you have oversight from your internship coordinator on site, and then you also have the support of the API Texas office. Expectations, so you either can choose from an in-person internship or you can do a virtual internship. We typically place our students with small to medium businesses. A lot of times they're NGOs, and you have entry-level positions where you can get the most out of this experience. Again, anywhere from 20 if you do the part-time to 32 hours a week if you do the full-time option. Typically, you're working Monday through Thursday, and before you accept your internship, you'll have your schedule and a description of the organization all listed out on an internship offer letter. So you have to accept that internship before you're placed in it. But again, very tailored process, and we'll walk you through it if you're interested in an internship. I'm going to take a moment now to talk about the virtual programs. Again, because mobility and because spring study abroad is canceled at URI, I do want to talk about these opportunities. We have 5 different virtual programs. The Global Select program is where you can take courses virtually from many of our different partner institutions abroad. While you're taking the class, you're also enrolled in API Connect, where you're going to be able to earn digital badges, which you can then put on your LinkedIn profile to demonstrate any new skills that you learned by earning that badge. You also get to engage in culture within API Connect and meet our resident directors virtually before you go on site and study abroad when mobility does resume. We have 2 labs that you can choose from. We have an innovation lab and we have a community engagement lab. Those are both team-based learning, so you're working in groups of 4 to 6 students. They're based on the UN Global Goals for sustainability. So those are 2 options if you want to work together in groups. You don't get any credit at this point for the lab. So the cost is lower than a study abroad program would be, but just keep in mind that right now the labs are not for credit. Virtual internships, we've already talked a little bit about. And then if you're looking to do anything related to language, we do have short-term Spanish and French, where you can take classes virtually through one of our partners in Spain or France. And this would be a great option if you want to boost or get a head start on your language before you study abroad in one of those locations. I'm taking a Spanish language course right now virtually through one of our Chilean partners, and it's an incredible experience because there's people from all over the world that are able to connect to this space because everything is virtual. So it's been a really fantastic experience. But in any of these locations or in any of these programs, as a student, you'd be doing the program, and then also you would have the ability to earn a variety of digital badges that you can then display to future employers. I want to talk about scholarships, of course, because this is so important when you study abroad. We do award more than $500,000 in scholarships annually, and the awards range anywhere from $250 to $1,000 per student. You have to be accepted into the API program to be eligible, but once you have been accepted, definitely apply for scholarships. You can see here the deadlines. They're actually the same as the application deadlines. So you do have to plan ahead and apply early to be eligible for the scholarships, but we certainly recommend that you apply. You have to write 2 essays, and there are the templates for the essays are found on the scholarship application. And then there's a special virtual scholarship that's available now. If you do enroll in any of one of those 5 programs that I talked about earlier, you would get a $3,000 discount if you do study abroad for a semester at a later date. And if you do a summer program, you would get $500 off of the cost of that program. So that's just for the virtual programs, and it's eligible until 2022 for you to apply that scholarship. So that's an extra incentive. If you're looking to do something international, some type of international experience now, you can sign up for one of those programs in the spring. And then I know I talked a little bit about this already when we talked about excursions, but I did want to take a moment just because of COVID right now, we have had to make some modifications. I just want to make sure that we share those. I already said that the international excursions have been discontinued for the time being. We also are going to we've modified our housing, where in some cases it's 1 student per home instead of 2 students per home. And then all of our activities right now, students have to wear masks and they have to abide by all of the local laws when it comes to COVID. So I wanted to just take a moment. Again, by fall 21 or 22, things are likely going to be back to normal, but that's just currently what's happening. And then because you have so many options when it comes to study abroad, just with URI, there are so many different partners that you can choose from and so many different programs that you can choose from. I want to encourage you to start your research early. I'm glad that you're attending the session, but take advantage of these or look at these websites. These are Abroad 101, Go Overseas, and Go Abroad are the most common study abroad review platform. So go on to those, look at API reviews, see what students have said, and talk to people who have been here. In a moment, I'm going to have Caitlin talk a little bit more about her experience because she just experienced the study abroad program with API. So she's a great reference and a great resource. But go to these websites as well. Check out the program finder on the website, which can help you narrow down your options based on courses you want to take, how long you want to go for, price point. There's all different, you can search by different functions on the program finder. And then same with the class finder. If you need to take a specific course, type that course in and it will pull up the matches where you can find if you need specific courses for your major or minor or even gen eds. You can use that tool. And then when you're ready to apply, go to the website. You can start an API application just by clicking on the Apply Now link on our website. Once you do that, you will have an assigned dedicated program manager that is going to be in touch with you through that pre-departure process. Like I said, all the logistics leading up to your program are going to be handled through API in Texas. And then you'll get to also start communicating with other students on your program even before you go abroad. But then once you get on site, you will have a whole API cohort group of students from all different universities around the country. So that's going to tie up the API info session, but I did want to give Caitlin just a few minutes to talk about what her experience was like in Florence. And if there are any questions, definitely chat them or turn off your mic and ask. But go ahead, Caitlin, if you want to talk about your program.
Hi, so I studied with API in the summer of 2019 in Florence, and I'm obviously here talking to you about it because it was such a great experience. But I don't know how far you are in the application process, but I remember feeling super overwhelmed. And just remember that the URI Abroad office is like a really good outlet. I remember attending an information session and feeling a lot better right away because I didn't know where I was applying, where I even wanted to go. And they led me to API, and they were really good with like all the paperwork and applying. And then I think I heard from API like fairly quickly. And like Eileen was saying earlier with the pre-departure process, they are absolutely amazing. They got me in touch with someone right away. They answered emails right away. They sent me a list of things I should pack, and I was able to set up being picked up at the airport, which was very comforting. Like just being dropped off in a random country, I was really nervous. And like Eileen was saying earlier, there was a week-long orientation, which was very necessary because we learned about the cultural and social differences. We met a lot of people. They helped us get situated into our living. So they took me to my apartment, showed me how all the appliances worked, which was very confusing at first because the laundry, the washer, all that stuff was very different. They had a list of like numbers that you could call if you ever get stuck. So we had to call our handyman a lot in my apartment because we ran into some issues, but they were there right away knocking at my door always. We had the group dinner when we first got there, which was so great to meet people, the cooking class. And what I really liked about API was that they sent out a schedule in the beginning when we first got there of things they were doing around Florence. So on like Sunday, there'd be a walking tour through Florence, or Friday, like we do a gelato workshop. And it was nice because you didn't have to go, but it was also great to go and see it. And the gelato workshop was my favorite. We went to one of the oldest gelato shops in Florence. They made gelato for us, showed us how they did it all, and then they let us taste test it all. So that was super cool and unique, which I would never have gotten if I just traveled by myself. Yeah. Tickets were included to things like the Gucci Garden and the Duomo with like the price of API, which I also really loved. And excursions like we were talking about before. I went to Rome, Venice, the Venetian Islands, and Cinque Terre. And it was just really great having the API staff to show us around because I would have been totally clueless. And we got walking tours from people from the area. So it was all really informational and I had a great time with it. And it's just important to remember that the staff of API is always, always there for you with any call. So our program had ended and my taxi cab never showed up to pick me up for my flight. And I was freaking out. The program was over. I didn't think anyone would be able to help me. And I called them and they solved the problem literally instantly for me. They were mapping out a way for me to get to the train, like all these different solutions. And they ended up finding me a cab, thank God. And I made my flight on time. So that just goes to show like how amazing the staff was and how they really eased any stressful situations. So I highly, highly recommend studying abroad with API. I loved it. And I still talk to all the people that I met today.
I still talk to all the people that I met too, and I studied abroad many years ago. That's so great, Caitlin. Thank you so much for sharing that. But I do want to reiterate, the resident directors, I think, are what make our program so special, and they are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So don't ever hesitate. Any question, big or small, any problem, big or small, you can always reach out and somebody will be there to assist you. These links right here, this is the link to the API website. There's also a form on the website if you want to chat with another alumni from different locations. You fill out what you want to talk about, budgeting, academics, travel, whatever it is, packing, and then our alumni director will match you up. So definitely fill that out if you'd like to be connected to an alum. The API email, my email, and then if you want to scan the QR code, you can stay updated on new programs, on scholarship opportunities. So just scan that code and you'll be able to get on the list for all of the updates. But that will conclude our API session. So thank you for coming, and let us know if you have any questions.
I was just wondering what kind of internships would be offered given the COVID restrictions.
Yeah, are you looking for virtual placement or are you wanting to go on site?
I would want to go in the spring of 2021 to Italy.
Okay.
So, yeah. So unfortunately, URI has put out there that we're not offering spring placement overseas at any of our overseas partners.
Is that this year or is that next year as well?
So spring 2021 would be this coming spring. If you're looking
Oh,
at
I mean 2020, fall 2021.
Oh, fall 20. So at this point, we would be moving forward under the assumption that 2021 fall would be running. We plan to make an announcement officially about that as a university in May. But at this point, we would basically kind of recommend that you start the process of looking and assuming that you are going to be planning to go. Just knowing that there's the possibility of needing to have a backup plan, because again, things are changing so quickly that, you know, we're very hopeful, obviously, that there'll be a vaccine in place and that everybody will be able to travel and borders will be open and things like that. But you know, that it's all dependent on where things stand at that point. But yes, fall at this point, we are definitely having students pursue fall as if it's a go.
Yeah, and then in terms of placement, like I said, it really depends on what your major is and what area you're looking for. What is your major?
My major is supply chain management.
Okay, so in terms of that, probably would be no problem to place. Laura would be able to tell you in terms of location what the best place to be, where you could go. So if you want to drop your email in the chat, I'm happy to follow up with you and send you some more information about that process. And you could even do a one-on-one advising session with Laura just to talk more specifically about what you're looking for. But really part of the process would be working with her very closely to identify all of that. So we can get you more information. So I can definitely follow up with you tomorrow.
And Brad, are you in the IBP, the International Business Program?
No.
Okay. What I would also recommend you do is chat with your business advisor. I'm guessing it's probably Kathy Conlon.
Yeah, I've already talked with her, and
okay.
I wanted to go this spring last year, but once COVID hit, I figured that wasn't going to happen, so I ruled that out.
Yeah.
And now I'm a junior, so I would go in my fall in the senior year.
Yep. I would just chat with them because I know that there has been some difficulty in the past, and it's departmentally in terms of selecting whether or not they will accept transfer internship credit from overseas. I'm not really quite sure why, but there has been some pushback in some cases in the past about because it's an internship through an outside entity and not directly through URI, that they decided they had some issues with that. So I would just make sure you have that conversation before you move forward gung-ho with the internship, just because I want you to be fully aware. I have seen students in the past do internship for elective credit, but that's, you know, I don't know what your situation is and what you need. So just make sure that you have that conversation with the the School of Business.
As far as excursions though, are they planning at all to be, for example, like make pasta or go to the gelato factory or something?
Yeah, for fall or for when you,
Yeah.
whenever you go abroad, there will always be different types of activities that you can participate in. With the internship, because you're interning and you would be like in an office environment, it would depend on when those activities are held as to whether or not, just like same with classes, it really depends on when they're held, but they'll always be organized for you. And depending on your schedule, you can take advantage of them. I highly recommend that you do. But yeah, every API program would include them.
Okay.
Any other questions you can think of?
No, I think I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Have a nice night, guys.
You too.
Take care.
Bye.
Hey, sorry we didn't have more people.
It's okay. It's being recorded, right? So you're posting it somewhere, so people could get the information.
Yep.